right here, you can't move whenever you take damage directly. You can still move whenever you take damage while blocking though. What's up? Do not forget to subscribe, join the Dreams Amino, hit the bell, all that great stuff. This right here is a very, very easy tutorial to do. It's a complex tutorial also. The blocking tutorial with it, you can reduce damage, and doing this will be like the easiest way to make fighting games. There's a few things you can do to build upon it, but without further ado, this is it, a very easy method. Our hitboxes are these wireless receivers. So whenever you press square, this one turns on. This one receives and makes you reduce damage. This one goes back here, so if your opponent attacks from behind, then you can still receive the max damage. So a keyframe moves the one that you would traditionally be taking damage with. It makes it where you take 5 damage or 4 damage. It moves it back there, and then it turns this on that makes it to where you take 1 damage. The signals for all of the wireless receivers are plugged into our hurt timeline. Our hurt timeline is what makes you change color. It is what has our animations that make it to where we get, you know, our hurt animation. It's what has the mover that makes us go backwards. So local space, made the arrow point that way, speed, all that great stuff. Might want to turn the Y down maybe. And it is what has our health modifier. I'll probably put it like more right here. Make this friend or whatever label your main character is, or your character that you're using. If your character is invisible or anything, turn these on, friend. And if you use impact, don't forget to plug this into your character. And I have it on 4 per hit, zone. That's how I'm doing it. And make sure this is hovered above your character or touching your character. This should either turn this off or make it to where you can't move anymore. So it turns that off. Timeline probably set to once or sustain. It's on once. This makes it to where you can do like true combos and stuff like that. Then a health manager right here. So that's how we take damage with our wireless receivers, signals plugged into the power of that. And that's how that works. Right here is whenever we press square. So we have a timeline for our block. Just this one right here. A NOT gate should be plugged into restart timeline. Squares, input plugged into that. Output into restart the timeline. Power is the square button, or whatever button you're going to use for block. The square button should also be plugged into an AND gate that is inside of your timeline throughout the whole thing. The B should be the signal for the wireless receiver that makes it where you reduce damage whenever you're holding square. And the A is the square button. The result is plugged into a keyframe that reduces the damage right here, and also turns off the keyframe that makes it to where you can't move. So what that keyframe did was it changed this health modifier from -4 to 1, and that's how it reduces damage. You can do this for all the attacks from your opponent also. So if your opponent has a stronger attack, this is how you would change the damage. So what's inside of our block timeline? Well, there's a keyframe that makes it to where the wireless receiver goes behind you, that makes it to where you take more damage. So record this one that makes it to where you take 4 to 5 damage behind you. Make it go behind you. That way if your opponent punches you from behind, you still take full damage. And then make it to where this keyframe turns on this wireless receiver that makes it to where you take 1 damage instead. And then also have it to where this keyframe has your block animation. I just make it to where it instantly turns into the block, sort of like Mortal Kombat does. What this does is it turns off the puppet interface, making it to where you can't move, but you can still press other buttons, or you can use 2 remote control sensors, have this turn off that remote control sensor, and have another remote control sensor for your block buttons and other attacks. This can just be your movement, and then you can use disable control feature. I've already explained the AND gate, and I've already explained this keyframe right here. Inside of the hurt has your animations also, and a mover. If I didn't explain it, it's pointed backwards, and these are the settings. If you like my settings, local space, you can turn down the Y if you need to, all that great stuff. Inside of here I also have a tag named P. This is what our enemy is following, and I also set it near up here. That's important to do that. I turned off the follower settings inside of the puppet that is our enemy, so make sure these settings are turned off, and I labeled it as foe. You should turn these settings off. You don't have to, but you should, as well as anything else you need to turn off. While your character is blocking, you also want to make it to where it turns off the procedural walk and this with a keyframe. Anytime you make attacks, you want that to happen. Otherwise, these animations that Media Molecule made will interfere with the animations that you're making. That's why you want to have a keyframe turn that off during the longevity of the attack. Next, let's go ahead and get to the enemy. I have this on 2D game. If you want to make this a 2D game, just go to both characters and then click this. And then align them properly. Check out my 2D game tutorial if you need more help. You can also use followers to keep them on a axis. Tutorials in my channel playlist somewhere. I have 1,000 tutorials. I'm exaggerating, but it feels like it. Alright, so this is our enemy. Here's the AI for our enemy. This is how you get them to walk. Pull out a look at, rotator, and a mover. Here's the mover settings. Copy this, turn down the Y. You're done. Look at, rotator, scene space direction, plug that into there. Make sure the arrow's pointing in the right direction, so this makes his body point towards the character. You can turn that on. I have all this up. Turn that up. Turn down the Y. Scene space direction into there, and that's our movement AI. There's a lot of things you can do with this. So if he gets closer to the end, to your main character, if your main character jumps, you can make it to where the Y turns up and it'll be like he jumps too. You can mess around with stuff. Next, I have a trigger zone and a laser scope. This is our AI for attacks. So the laser scope, I haven't, let me double check what all this does real quick. Seems like the laser scope, if this can see the tag of your enemy or of your character, which is friend. Turn that on if you need to. Point it at P. It's not detecting P, it's detecting the label. It's just pointed at the tag named P inside of our puppet, which is right there. So if this is touching that, you can make this as long as you need to make it. Then there's a keyframe. And this should turn down all the movement, including acceleration, maybe even turn up deceleration. It might even turn this off. It doesn't look like it, so you don't have to do that. You can also make it to where this keyframe turns off this if you need to. But all that keyframe's doing is turning down the speed of your puppet, and it's also turning down the movement speed for the mover to 0. So whenever this character is in range of this character, he won't move towards the character anymore. That's what the laser scope is designed to do. You can make it bigger. You can make it to where this is inside of this timeline if you need to, which makes more sense. You think about it. That way you can extend it and even make this longer. And that way you don't get any glitches. That should be what that does. Or you can keep it out here. Point is, just have it as plugged into this keyframe. You can have the keyframe inside of the timeline also for organization if you need to. Next, the trigger zone. Trigger zone is detecting the label friend, so this trigger zone just needs to be able to detect this character. However you're going to do that. If you're using labels, make sure these are turned on if you need them turned on. If detected, powers on our timeline, which is set to once. Let me make sure there's nothing in here changing these around. If you check out my combos tutorial, you'll see why I'm saying that. Doesn't seem like it. Here's the animation for the kick. Check out my animation tutorial on my channel playlist if you need to learn how to animate. What this does is it turns off the trigger zone. It also turns on this keyframe. You might not want this to turn on this keyframe. We can mess around with it. We'll do that here in a second. So we should just be taking 1 damage. Yep. And there we took like a full 4. And right there we should have took another full 4. And there's some other things you'll want to do to this in order to get it completely polished. But for the like if you take a kick in the air, then you drop down from the air. That's the kind of stuff you want to add. You can also add cooldown to this, so that way you don't get overhurt, if that makes sense. But let me explain everything else that's in this timeline. I just wanted to make sure everything's working so far before I attempted to turn this off. Yep, everything seems to be working. Alright, so this keyframe that I'm about to talk about right here does not need to turn this off. Just to let you guys know. We'll go ahead and talk about this keyframe again. What this keyframe does is just turns off this trigger zone. I also forgot to mention that there's probably an on switch somewhere that makes this go backward. No, I decided to use the mover for backwards momentum whenever you get hurt. Alright, so we're good. We're all up to speed. Move this out the way. Click this one, second keyframe. The second keyframe turns down the mover speed and the strength and stuff too. Sure, that's all that's doing. Yep. This wireless receiver is when we can take damage. So this is our hitbox. We can only take damage during the priority of the attack animation, because that's where the wireless receiver is. Or transmitter. Make sure. Should be the transmitter. Yep. Pull out an on switch, have it placed before the transmitter, then put the on inside of there. What this one does, this keyframe right here, it's probably just some backup stuff. Now this right here, it makes it to where the animation that's our kick, the walk animation doesn't interfere with it. So this is just turning this procedural animation and walk animation off. That's what this keyframe is doing. And you already know what the laser scope does. Just make sure that's all this keyframe is doing. Looks like it. So again, there's a few things you can add to this. Don't forget to add a camera if you guys want to, unless you're trying to make something like Naruto. The things you'll want to add is like if you get hurt in the air, you know, you fall backwards in the air, you know, unless it's like, you know, from the front or whatever. Then there's a few other things you might want to do. You know, right here, you can't move whenever you take damage directly. You can still move whenever you take damage while blocking though. So it might be some things you want to add, but it's perfect. It's perfect. I'll make another video. There's some things you can fix, you know, like whenever he's turning like that, but that's really simple to fix. There's a reason why that happens. I kind of like it. There's a few things. That's like the only thing you need to fix. I think you can just fix it by raising those, in all honesty. To like 99 million. I'll make a grab tutorial also. Then I also have the anticipated turn all the way up somewhere. Yep. And if you need to, if you're like making new characters or levels, you'll want to remix the whole level, so that way if you have emitters and stuff, it stays in the new level. And if you have a second character, you'll want to double click. So you want to press this, this. And then let's say this is our main character that has all the block and combo logic in it. You want to double click and move all of it into the new microchip that's your new puppet. That way, all you have to do is change the animations and stuff in the timeline. You might have to change the position of the trigger zones and the dots and stuff, but that's about it. That's one reason I don't like using trigger zones and stuff. But the reason we use wireless receivers instead is because it allows us to easily make different characters like this instead of having to redo the whole logic for our game. That's why I use wireless receivers. Alright guys, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, all that great stuff, and peace out. Join the Dreams of Mino. Follow me in Dreams. I'm Young Tex, YouTube and Dreams. Young Tex on YouTube and Twitch. Follow, subscribe, hit the bell. Peace out. If you guys want a grabbing tutorial, let me know. Let me know.